Welcome to Beans and Breakdowns, a podcast dedicated to bridging the gap between specialty coffee and the heavy music community. On this, our 100th episode, I wanted to bring on a very special guest, somebody who has had a big part in making Beans and Breakdowns what it is. Matt McGachy, vocalist for the band Cryptopsy and the host of the Vox and Hops Metal and Beer podcast. He's been very supportive since we started the podcast and helped out in a lot of ways that I don't even think that he knows about. And so I just wanted to bring him on and talk to him and thank him for his part in Beans and Breakdowns. So grab a fresh cup of coffee and wake the fuck up. What's going on, Caffeinated Crew? On this episode, this is a milestone for us, for the caffeine cult. That's a new term I just made up right now. But we've hit episode... it's nice, right?
Caffeine cult right now.
We have officially hit episode 100. That's, I think, momentous. Since we haven't been in the pandemic for almost a year. We've stuck around. So
good for you. No, I know a lot of work goes into making one episode, so putting 100 together, it's especially the first 10, 20 there's a lot of you're like still learning how to
trial and error,
to make it work and how you're going to make this work in your schedule. It's like starting a podcast sounds fun
in theory, on paper.
But once you have the podcast, like the conversation is cool. This is the easy part. Everything else behind it, the work that goes into that is a lot of work. So congrats to you for that times 100. That's momentous, as you said. Caffeine cult. Praise your caffeine god.
The student is only as good as the teacher, who I think that this is a great segue to say for episode 100, we have somebody who is extremely special to this podcast, somebody who has inspired me to do this, where I talk for hours on end to people that I've never met before. But we have Matt McGachy, vocalist of the band Cryptopsy and the host of the Vox and Hops Metal and Beer podcast. How are you doing?
I'm great. Sunday morning where we're enjoying some coffee instead of beer, which is healthy and good. And I'm great. I feel good. We were hanging out last weekend together, which is nice, which is sort of how this came together. And I'm very, very honored to be your 100th guest. It's very cool. I know it's very nice of you.
I appreciate you taking time. I know that your schedule is a bit insane with, your full-time thing that you got going on. You've got Cryptopsy cranking back up, which we will definitely be talking about. And you have the Vox and Hops monster that it has become, which is why we were last weekend at Ganawake, celebrating and just drinking some beers.
It was great. Haze Wars, HBC 586, awesome experimental hop from Yakima Chief Hops. They hooked me up, sponsoring the event, hooking up 6 breweries with massive amounts of this experimental hop so that they could make their own mono hop IPA. Sir John won. There were 6 breweries that were going head to head. Sir John pulled in front with the winning brew, mainly because it was a little bit different. I think to be honest, there it was not hazy, which is funny, which they were disappointed about, but I think it ended up working in their favor. It was great. Always good to be with you. Stoked to be on someone else's podcast. I love doing this. So let's dig in.
You do one about a year, I think, is what I've seen through your Spotify credits. So it was overdue.
I'm sure I'm going to have a few more coming up with the Cryptopsy coming back.
I thought I'd snag you as early as possible. So what do you got drinking on your side this morning?
I got sent this very cool metal coffee that I haven't tried yet. It's which is very appropriate for the Beans and Breakdown podcast. Blegh coffee, BLEGH coffee. It's nice. It's Ethiopian Guji is what they've called it. It's a newer coffee roaster out of the States, from San Diego. It cost him a lot of money to send it here, and then it cost me money too. So Stoked to be drinking it finally. I got it about 2 weeks ago, and I haven't had it yet. So I was waiting for the perfect opportunity, and here it is. So in my
Jack Skellington
cup there, it's nice. It's smooth. I've been drinking good coffee for quite some time. I bought an espresso machine in 2009, 2010, the same one from that place in Little Italy. It just works. Faima, it's called. I bought the machine there for my wife for her birthday, I think, or for Christmas one year, and it just works. We always have. I stopped drinking filter coffee at that point. Just started drinking espresso, and typically we go to the market and we'll go to Merci and we'll pick up good coffee there. We like strong, coarse stuff in this house. Recently, I've been drinking shittier coffee because for some reason coffee is getting really expensive, and I've been drinking just like stuff that I pick up at the grocery store. And to go from that, which I've been drinking for weeks, to something like this there is really nice. Very, very nice.
When even doing that Ethiopia, like a Guji, is usually like a pretty blueberry, juicy, fruit forward coffee.
Exactly.
Which is made like a lot of people would. I'd drink that on filter all day. Every day. But to do it on espresso is very interesting. It's a very modern way that people are doing espresso now, which is cool. So I hope that you're liking the taste. It's pretty
very nice. It's really nice. Yeah.
Cool.
Very nice. It's not a beer, but it's okay.
I mean, we could have done coffee stouts. You know, we could coffee stout.
Sunday, we're trying to be good there.
So I have something. It's I had planned to do a coffee from my friends in Night Swim. They're out of Charlotte. We had a similar issue with the money and the shipping and the thing, except for when I got my package after paying a lot of money in customs, the coffee had been removed.
No.
And
bastards.
Had been repackaged. So that's an unfortunate conversation I'm going to have with my friend. But this is my other friend. He's a vocalist in a band that I play in, but he runs Balance out of Verdun. Really? This is his Tero Kabele. It is it's a Kenya. Yes, it's a Kenyan coffee. It's natural. It's got notes of jasmine, berries, lemon, and tea.
Very nice.
So it's pretty good. Tastes like just crazy black tea, like super strong.
Very nice. I love the whole artisanal coffee world. I think it's amazing.
It's much like the rabbit hole of craft beer.
Yes, and yes. So thank you, Blair, for sending me this coffee, and it was worth it. It was worth the trouble. He says that he doesn't like the packaging and he wants to work better on it. But I like this. I think it looks cool. I don't know. It's a new thing. So I hope that they have a long life and do cool things. I like making coffees. With Cryptopsy, we made a coffee. Yes, it's pretty cool from Grindcore Coffee.
Is that Grindcore from like the Philly shop, Grindcore Coffee House?
This is from Roasted. This is from Sioux Falls, South Dakota, Grindcore Coffee Company.
Oh, that's a new one.
Roasted to premium standards by Temecula Coffee Roasters from California. So this was like jet fuel.
Oh, yeah.
You have this, there's maximum caffeine. I took this once and then I reorganized my kids' room. It was just like
Adderall.
It wasn't a plan, but I did it. And I still have some of this left somehow. But yeah.
Have you tasted that Cannibal Corpse coffee yet?
I have not. No.
I haven't either. But they did one for, was it Sanguis Sigabog? They also did one for.
Okay. Is that Death Wish?
No, it's not Death Wish. It's Bean Bastard.
Okay. I love all these things that are happening. It's so cool. This guy's going to start doing collabs too. He was saying bleh. So we'll see. We'll see. Do you like to bleh, don't you? I bleh. There's a few blehs on the new Cryptopsy.
That's good.
Yeah.
I even throw some in on my beat down hardcore. I feel like there's not enough bleh before.
I feel like there's like one too many on the new Cryptopsy, but at this point it's too late.
I mean, yeah, you gotta cut and print that shit, or else you're gonna be waiting. You gotta wait 8 months for those vinyls to get pressed. And
No, it's done. Yeah, no. Somehow they did it fast. I don't know how they're doing it, but they
y'all have the Taylor Swift moves. Is that how it is? You get the.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if they actually come through with them when it's supposed to come out.
In your neighborhood, is there a shop that you go to on the regular?
Packbo for sure. Zab Coffee, love them.
Mm-hmm. That's Max, right? Is that his name?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Packbo is near my neighborhood, so in my neighborhood, so I go there frequently, but infrequently as well. I love the experience there. I love Zab. I enjoy their Cafe Limo too, which is also Zab. They do that like lemonade coffee thing.
So good.
I like that very much. I actually was with a hot sauce dude called Empty Hell, the hot sauce guy, and he made a collab with Cafe Limo for hot sauce too. But Packbo, they have great vegan options. Something I don't talk about very much, but it's right near my kid's pediatrician. So typically we go to the pediatrician and then we go to Packbo. But great little coffees, feels great. Cold brews and feels like a nice light stout. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Love it.
I literally just had this conversation with Gab on the episode from last week where Gab from Apes.
Yeah.
We had the conversation about he loves Packbo. Packbo is his favorite Montreal shop. And so we were kind of nerding about the Cafe Limo and like how on tap they've got the cold brew lemonade, which is
so good.
A life-changing experience if you haven't had it.
Mm-hmm. There's a little car too, like a Cafe Limo car in my neighborhood too. It must be one of them that lives around me. But
yeah, I guess that's true because they're on Belanger, that original one. So I live
there's a
closer
new one
to the Old Port
too. There's one in the Old Port. That's right.
Mm-hmm. The Old Port one's been there for a few years. It's nice.
That's great to know. I was like, because I feel like as a vegan, downtown Montreal, it's hard to eat. I find it's like crazy to say that there, but like unless you want to do something fancy, there's nothing like fast. Like Old Port I'm talking about. So when I crossed and I saw that there was a Packbo, I was like, this is awesome. I'm like mentally like registering this, that next time I'm downtown with my kids and we want to eat something quick, we can go there.
Around the corner, you've got Burger Fiance and Burger with a V. That's by Christian Ventura.
Exactly.
So those are like fast food, but I think they're obviously pricey.
Exactly. For the kids, I'm going to buy my kid a sandwich and they're not going to eat it,
Yeah.
Like, they're just going to eat the bread.
Well, cheers to you. Cheers to the coffee and
this is great.
Joining this morning.
Very stoked to be here.
Yes.
I'm going to refill. I'm used to drinking lots of stuff, so.
Yeah, you don't have a man can of coffee. Well, you kind of have what a man can of coffee would be, I guess, in the therm.
Yeah, that's the thing about espresso, right? Like, when I'm hungover, I like a filter cup of coffee. I like to drink a lot of coffee, and the espresso just doesn't get me there.
Yeah, it's true. You gotta pace yourself. The hangover thing, I feel like, it's a matter of pacing. It's taking time, it's recovering. The espresso is more like you got to get it done. You get in, get out.
I'm going to work and move. And
it's in a hurry. Things. This is more contemplative. You're sipping, thinking, why did I do this?
How many did all of them? Oh, I drank them all again. Yes. Okay.
No willpower. Well, that's awesome. Speaking of hangovers, speaking of, drinking and beers, the Vox and Hops podcast, you're coming up on 5 years.
Mm-hmm. In October. Started 2018 as a whim to keep myself busy. Was really what happened. I saw my band mates becoming very busy, and I know myself, I would feel jealous of their success, which is horrible, but I know myself. Ollie had just joined Cattle Decapitation. Obviously, I knew that was going to go well.
Yeah.
Flo told me that David Vincent was going to be the singer of his new project he was working on at the time, which is now Ultimates. And Chris Donaldson's just always busy with the studio, so I wanted to find something for me, something to keep myself busy. And another band didn't resonate with me. I tried that with the Era Of. I put my heart and soul into that in the early 2010s. That sort of just petered out. So I wanted to do something different. I was listening to a lot of podcasts because I was home with my daughter, who was 18 months at the time, 2 years old. And Jess, my wife, said, why don't you start a podcast? Why don't you do this? And we built it, and we drove it to where it is now, over 400 episodes in 4.5 years, insanely booked, crazy projects, just a whirlwind of amazing conversations and connections that have come because of it. A lot of things that are happening in my life are because of Vox and Hops. Even with Cryptopsy, like Cryptopsy getting signed was directly linked to a Vox and Hops conversation. So it's super interesting, the amount of things that have come from me sitting down and having conversations with my friends and sharing a beer. Very interesting. I would have never imagined that it would have gotten to where it is. I have to remind myself still now, like I have mottos over years of the podcast. My motto this year is, it's just a podcast. So, like you gotta, like the first year was the illusion persists, like, which is something I fuck around with, the illusion of success. But it's just a podcast, so I take everything to heart. I take everything very seriously. And I put a lot on the table for the podcast, hoping that it's going to be massively successful for events that I'm doing. And then at the end of the day, it's just a podcast. It's just me having a beer with a friend, and we're recording a conversation, and I'm putting it out into the world.
Right. How many times a week do you have to remind yourself this is for fun?
Never. That never. No.
Okay.
It's just a podcast. It's like my motto is really like, as I walk to work in the morning, I'm lucky at work. I can work during my break on the podcast, which is the secret of how I do everything. Right. At first, I was waking up before going to work, like waking up an hour early to work on the podcast. Like when I was the first 10 episodes, let's say, that's how I built the first 10 episodes. And then after that, I'm very lucky that at work, I have an hour that I can work on the podcast, which is amazing. So as I'm walking to work every morning, I have like the plan of what I'm going to get accomplished in that hour. And then in that march to the metro, the subway, I have the mantras that go on in my mind. So it's just a podcast. Stay positive. It's about connecting with people and staying focused on what's important, as opposed to getting caught up in stuff that brings me nothing. Because there's the whirlwind of because I'm very involved in the world of craft beer, but I'm not involved in the world of craft beer. You know what I mean? Right. Like I have no financial stakes in anything that I do. It's just for fun and for projects, and I make no money with any collabs I do. So focus on what's important, which is, my quality of life and being with my family, and the podcast. It's just a podcast. It's like in all these beers that I make, it's just for fun. It's cool and stuff, but it's just for fun.
I mean, that's extremely important, creating the boundaries, even from what I've gotten so caught up on trying to meet deadlines that I make for myself on the podcast that I can even at work, like I'm just stressed, not even about my job at work, but about getting podcast stuff done. I'm freaking out. So yeah, creating those deadlines or boundaries.
It's funny, eh? And it's like, oh, I have to put an episode. I have to. It's like yesterday I had an interview that fell through. And in the past, I would have been so stressed. And the guy was like, it was like a time zone mess up. And he's a podcaster too, so he understands that. And he was like, oh, I'm available now. And I'm like, well, in the past, I would have like left the park and like come home and then re-recorded with him then. But yesterday I was like, no, man, I'm at the park with my kids. It's like, it's over. We'll reschedule. We'll do it next week and it's fine. I don't mind. But in the past, I would have like, you can't miss something. You have to finish this thing. You have to release the episode every week. And that's not true also.
Right.
I don't have to be booking September, but I am for some reason. It makes no sense. So I'm trying to like reevaluate all of that. And I take breaks now, which is something that I didn't do for the first 4 years. I take months off. Every 3 months, I take a month off. It feels real good. And then like when I have my next interview, I feel like invigorated and recharged. And because there's been times that, like, I remember I had an interview with Guar the second time I had them on, and I was so burnt. And I was doing the interview, and I was like, it's like looking at this screen, and I'm talking to Guar, and it's amazing, but my mind's not there, and I feel like my eyes get fuzzy. I don't know if it's ever happened to you when we do these Zoom things, and your eyes just get out of focus. And I was like, this is not okay. Like, I need to take breaks. I have to like this.
Yeah.
And setting limits of like how many interviews I'm going to do. And I'm so happy that I never got caught up into and I don't know if you do this there. The publicists send us these, you want to talk to this artist? And it's like, fuck yeah, I want to talk to this artist. It's amazing. He's doing press. I want to talk to them. Fill out, choose your time. And then like you have to fall into this person's box of times. Right. I never do that. I probably miss like a lot of big, like Dave Lombardo was just doing a bunch of interviews. You see, like all my friend podcasters had Dave Lombardo. I could have had Dave Lombardo, but I chose not to apply for these times just because I want my life to have balance and structure. And the podcast, it's just a podcast. It has to fall into the second priority of my life, which is quality of life and my children and working. And so many people, so many podcasters, they do these interviews like in their car because they're at work and they want to talk to this artist, and they do this 3 p.m. slot when the artist has like 5 interviews in a row. I feel like the quality, I've done interviews like that with George from Cannibal Corpse. Mm-hmm. And there's that stress of like, George talks forever, first off. So you ask him 2 questions, and all of a sudden your 30 minutes is over, and then you feel bad because he's still talking and you have to stop him out of respect for the next. I hate doing these things. So I'm happy that I put my limits to set my life before the podcast.
I mean, yeah, that's just invaluable advice for anybody that's even trying to, even bands, like a lot of bands, I feel like, you want to make it, you want to be a musician. And like, honestly, that's what makes me the most excited, is thinking about podcasts and things I have going on outside of it. But at the end of the day, those are hobbies. And I like, as bad as it is to say that, that's what it is. You're not making money off of it. You're grinding until, maybe hopefully something comes of it. So
it's just connections, like connections and knowing people. And eventually, hypothetically, like Notfest will pick me up to host something that I will get paid for.
Right.
Some of the endeavors that I do, like the shows that I do, there's financial gain there. But it's definitely not about the money. Like I just did my taxes, and Vox and Hops was a tough year for Vox and Hops last year. The illusion persists, so it's super successful. But
we're reporting a loss on that one.
So like flying to Winnipeg for a show that I hosted might have not been the best idea. But it was super fun. And I got to connect with the Wake peeps, and they were amazing. And they just came to Montreal, and we hung out again. Like these connections that I'm forming through the podcast is invaluable. So there's no financial number you can put on connections and what will come of future things. It's just unbelievable. Like having a chat with Charles from Abysmal Dawn in LA on the aborted run, drinking killer stout. It was like a Freeman or something. It was so good. And then he's hanging out all night, and then he's like, you know what? I think I'm gonna offer you guys a deal. And then it took months for it to happen. And then this is what, like, this is a true story. This is crazy. It's like,
that's insane.
And I think I was like, we'd like, because I guess Cryptopsy was always like independent for so long. So I imagine many labels probably didn't even think about offering us anything.
Right.
And we were vehemently like proud and announcing that we were independent. So I imagine that it wasn't even like in their mindsets until I prodded him saying, you know what, it'd be sort of cool if we could maybe talk about doing a deal together, for a record at least.
About the Vox and Hops thing, before we even just leave this, is it's for somebody who's a fan, for somebody who's coming in from the outside, and seeing the community that you've built, because it's not just you talking to people on a podcast. Like we've got Thirsty Thursdays, you have these meetups that you do. In Montreal alone, I would say there's a good group of people that meet pretty regularly, like monthly or bi-monthly. go
People
to shows
travel.
to get beers. Yeah, it's
People travel. Yeah.
like Phil, like me and Phil have become
Yeah.
great friends because of meeting on Thirsty Thursday. So
Yeah.
it's more than just, you know, talking about beers and metal to people that have been in metal bands or the industry for a long time. It's, you know, creating a great community, a strong community of people who
I could have hired like the most expensive person in the world to build a community for me, and it wouldn't have worked the way that Thirsty Thursdays did. It was so organic.
right.
It was not ever a plan. It was the pandemic, like peak pandemic. Quebec, we were like locked down in our houses. There was curfews, for Christ's sakes. So I invited people to come hang out with me on Zoom and share beers with me on Thursdays. I did it every week for 4 or 5 months, I think. Just hanging out with people. I invited like alumni of the podcast. I invited friends that I toured with. A few of the first early ones, there was 60 people in a Zoom meeting just from across the globe, people from Ukraine, people from Mexico, there's people from New Zealand, there's people from like it was different time zones, Australia. Just unbelievable that it worked. And it kept working. And then I was like, oh well, I guess I could like record interviews too. Why not? Let's do a live interview. I trust these people. Let's do that. So I started doing that. And then when the world started opening up again and I was working full time again, I just started hosting the first Thursday of each month, starting in September of 2020, I assume. And then they just kept meeting every Thursday, and they still meet to this day every Thursday. There's a few key members that every Thursday they hang out on Zoom. And then I pop in the first Thursday of every month to host a live interview. It's unbelievable. And there's friends, you know, they've traveled. Phil De Vitesse, Whispers from the Void podcast, another podcast that was born out of Fox and Hops, which is crazy. Him and Evan Welch. Evan Welch is from Boston and Phil's from Quebec City, and they have a podcast together because they met at a Thirsty Thursday. I hosted, you know, like anniversary parties. People have traveled here to be at the anniversary. Jorge from Toronto, just unbelievable. This crazy community and people, and then the review crew was born from the Thirsty Thursday gang. A bunch of people write reviews for the podcast. Jerry Monk has the Brutal Awakenings playlist that he adds stuff to every week. He sends me the best recommendations. It's like totally catered to my needs every Friday. He's unbelievable, from Texas. He's awesome. It's just unbelievable what happened. Phil does a whole bunch of design work for the podcast now. It's crazy. It's crazy what's Thirsty Thursdays. I could have never, ever imagined it ever becoming something like this. There's Colby that helps the podcast too. He listens to all my episodes and then tells me what ads are on it, because I want to make sure that my podcast network is putting the right ads in, and I don't listen to my own episodes. So it's amazing. It's cool. I'm extremely grateful. And like the 5-year anniversary is coming up October 21st at Mutoid. I'm planning it already, and people are like, Jerry Monk is flying here with his wife, and other people are booking like hotels already. It's crazy. It's crazy. I could have never imagined. I can't wait to go on tour eventually and then hang out with all these people that I've met face to face in their hometowns, you know, instead of them having to come here to be with us. It's unbelievable. And there's like thirsty people that they hang out, they don't even invite me anymore. It's crazy.
There's a few people that Nancy and I will run into at shows, like France.
Yeah.
And
she takes pictures for the podcast a lot. Elizabeth is another one. She would pop in sometimes. She's at all the shows. So much fun. All for the love of metal and beer and just the sense of community. It's unbelievable. You know, Ollie also, he went to go see Chimera this week. He's so excited.
That's sick.
He loves Chimera.
All that Chimera is like one of those weird crossover bands that all of the hardcore people like from like, you know, the 90s love too. Like members of Terror. I talked to Martin from Terror, and he was like, oh, well, I loved Chimera, so I went and saw Chimera and saw Buried Alive, and that's how he ended up meeting Scott and joining Terror.
Wow, okay.
So yeah, it's really funny that Chimera is like, there's a lot of those bands, but they're one of those like staple early on bands that united hardcore and metal people together.
Ollie bought me this beer. I have it. I still haven't drank it. And it's for when I interview Chimera. So eventually I'm going to drink this beer. I've had it for 3 years so far. So eventually I'm going to drink this beer.
That's the problem with those DIY bands is like, publicists are a pain and doing the time slots, but imagine having a band with no form of contact online. That's also horrible.
I have to get Rob. He wants me to get Rob. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. I just, being a part of Thirsty Thursdays starting out, that's kind of how, Nancy and I not found out about the podcast, but that's how we started getting a lot more into it. And that is eventually what kind of pushed me to start doing the podcast. I've been wanting to do it for a long time. And, I was bored out of my fucking mind because I love talking to people. And I'm stuck at home and I have nothing to do. And Nancy's like, you have to stop talking to me. So she was like, why don't you start a podcast? Start a podcast. What do you like? I was like, coffee and hardcore. She was like, let's do it. Just fucking stop talking to me about it and do it. So
good for Nancy. Thank you, Nancy.
That was the mean way of how she actually said it, which was very helpful. But
we sometimes we need that extra person just to give us the push, just to.
Was it Jess did the same for you? She
pushed just we came up with that. We went to it was her birthday. We went to dinner and we came up with the name. We came up with the concept, and then I just had to dig deep and ask my friends to have a conversation. And I was so nervous. I was so nervous. The first one, so goddamn nervous. And Danny Marino was like, "Matt, you've played Vakken. You can do this."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Okay, you're right." Yeah, but I was still nervous. Yeah.
You've performed in front of like tens of thousands of people, and you're talking to one person,
a friend,
over a beer.
Yeah, we had 2 beers.
It's weird. It's weird. Like even the stakes being potentially so low that it is like nerve wracking a bit.
And then like I can edit. Like I guess I didn't know it. I didn't know, and the editing that took forever. The one I'm learning how to edit. And
so you didn't come from audio.
No, I'd never done anything. Chris Donaldson recorded me always, and I figured to do that. I Googled and figured it out and copied some settings from some Podigy, I think is the website.
Yeah.
And Chris Donaldson hated it. He was like, for years, he's like, your podcast sounds like shit. Podcast sounds like shit. But he would never fix it. So finally, a year ago, he fixed it for me. And he's like, no, it's better.
Literally, it would have taken him 10 minutes just
That's exactly what happened. I took my laptop and I brought it into his studio when we were recording vocals last June, and he fixed it. So everything up until last June sounds like shit.
I don't think it sounds like shit. It's a lot of bass, but it doesn't. I don't think it sounds like shit, but there is a lot of bass. I will say.
It's fixed now.
Good. I'm excited. I'm happy that's what are friends for, but to hassle you about the way that something sounds, but will offer zero solutions.
Well, he was always like, well, you got to never fixed it.
Like I said, Vox and Hops is a big part of Nancy and I's life. It really helped us through the pandemic, and then just being at, all the Brutal shows and getting to hang out with you, meeting Phil, meeting Evan, all the guys that come out to those things. It's something very special to us, even though I come from more of a hardcore background. I still love that community. I still love a lot of the guests that you have on. And I think there's a lot of crossover there. I hate this division between, hardcore and metal. I think there's a lot of things in common.
Well, I think it's coming more and more. So that's good, much to some venues in the States disdain. But,
It just means more. It just means more opportunity and more money. Like, just give into it.
It's cool. I don't want to get punched in the face in the pit though, but it's cool. I think it's cool. And when I'm trying to build bills now, I have that in mind too. That I want to do a bit more of a crossover. But it's tough organizing concerts at this moment. So
yes, and there's no venues available until
very difficult
2025. Tell me about, we don't have to, I know that you've told this story so many times and, this is just part of it. Your first show, you're the vocalist for Cryptopsy, an incredible band. not just for people in Quebec and Montreal, but globally, Cryptopsy has had such an impact in the metal community. But tell me about your first show. I know that it's not your first band, and when you did vocals in front of people for the first time, how was that?
My first show with Cryptopsy or my first show in general?
No, in general.
Oh, cool. Okay. That's funny because
Was it with 3 Mile Scream?
No, it was with I had a band before that. I think my first show was a talent show.
Nice.
In high school with my band, Numb, it was called, or maybe it was Canada Day. Maybe that was the first show. I think it's Canada Day, and there's pictures of that out there where I had like bleach blonde, spiky hair. We covered "Shove It" from Deftones and Red Hot Chili Peppers' "Other Side," which shows our musical how wide we were in our musical array.
The uniformity there.
We also covered "Idiot Box" from because we had a DJ from Incubus. It was cool. It was outside. I was worried it was going to rain. It was going to get canceled. All this like big build up to finally playing a show. There was a bunch of old people there. It was fun. It was cool. We drank beer after. The talent show stuff was cool too. At school, I was always happy to showcase that I could sing. My aunt early on got me vocal lessons, which I'm very thankful for because I was sort of harsh screaming, but like the Deftones, I was screaming in that. Definitely more of like a rock upbringing than metal. I fell into metal later. It was more like Tool, Incubus, Deftones, new metal child, pushing my voice slowly. Mike Patton became like a big influence that turned everything right as I was joining 3 Mile Scream. So I was doing all these early 3 Mile Scream stuff was very weird vocals where I was screaming, but I was more screaming in like a frantic Mike Patton-y inspired way, System of a Downy weird vocals. But I imagine Surge is influenced by Mike Patton too. So then 3 Mile Scream just kept getting heavier and heavier. So the extreme vocals came in that way. But I was definitely not listening now. I listened to the 3 Mile Scream demos because my parents had them there. And I feel like we made a mistake going heavier. I feel like we should have stayed more melodic. This is like hindsight of 20 years, right? So looking back on this, like I think we would have been more successful had we stayed more melodic. Because I could sing, and then we were like pushing to be more heavy because that's what was happening in the world with like In Flames and Killswitch Engage. Really, we were definitely inspired by them. And I'm not sure what I like. If you listen to my early demos, my screams were not that great. So it took me a long time to get good at screaming.
How did you finally cross the threshold from doing the more what I would call like orchid yelling, like just straight up pushing, into what you would say is like a healthy technique?
The Zen of Screaming, I picked that up. Everyone was talking about it. I got for Christmas one year from my parents, and I really got into it. It was like the only thing out there at the time, right? It's not like the YouTube. It's not like the YouTube.
The YouTube was on.
I'm even so thought old. Of. So this was the only thing. And if you look at that, what Melissa Cross built with the Zen of Screaming, she hardly tells you how to scream. If you actually remember, it's very minimal. She's not really showing you how to scream at all. She's showing you what not to do and how to breathe.
Right.
And that helped. And then like, I think like Ashes of the Wake came out and Zen of Screaming at the same time. And it's probably a horrible thing for my ears, but I had the PA right behind my head in the jam room with 3 Mile Scream. And then like really hearing what I'm doing is when it sort of all clicked for me. And not having to push so hard is something I remember too. And that really tied into, for some reason, Ashes of the Wake. I don't know why it was in that time frame. And that's when everything just sort of developed itself. The Fry Scream came out. much easier. And I had like for Cryptopsy for many years, many years, I would do more of a fry scream than a false chord. And then recently, it's in 2019, I started, or on the Book of Suffering Tome 2, I did a few passes with false chord, and me and Donaldson were like, man, really like that. Like, and then we did, it just became my Lord Warm voice. Whenever Lord Warm was era songs, I would just do that. And then we loved it. Like, we would listen to the videos. We like that's the voice. Like, and then that's what I did for the whole new record. So it's nice. There's no more fry screams happening. It's just false chord, but controlled with time. It's funny because I used to do it with 3 Mile, and then I just cut it out for some reason. I don't know why. Trying to be brutal, trying to scream as deep as I can.
Yeah, that's it. You gotta, like, as a Slipknot fan, you know, Corey Taylor is like just 100% false chord.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's the era of metal, and I was metalcore, so it was like post Killswitch, but like more towards the Suicide Silence, deathcore kind of stuff. So hearing like Mitch and Ollie Sykes when they were not a rock band, and Bring Me the Horizon, which, come to find out, he was destroying his voice. But hearing that was always like, what the fuck are they even doing? How are they doing that? And then comparing it to things like Surge, and that's why System of a Down for me was always like, I don't know, this is weird. It's a little too unbridled. Like,
it sounds like he's out of control, but he's in control, which is interesting.
Yeah, it's very strange.
Nowadays, it's so easy though. Now the kids like learn all these. There's all these, you know, Will Ramos and Travis Ryan. And it's another world of extreme vocalists out there. It's I am happy that I'm not starting something new, because I'm a pretty run of the mill vocalist. I'm not the best vocalist. I'm okay, but you know, I'm not the superstar of my band the way those guys are.
Yeah, watching Flo play drums is like another level of like it because he's quite a bit older than me, but he can play quite a bit faster than me. I'm just like,
there's nights on tour where I've been on tour and I'm playing and I'm headbanging and I can tell that I'm in the way.
Yeah.
It's all the hair. Fan, you know, the fan's trying to see Flo and I'm the you know what, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna move over a bit, I guess.
I'm just trying to look at his feet, man. Holy shit.
Jeez, yeah. No, it's yeah. But I'm happy that I'm not like starting a band and trying to make an impact, because these kids now, they're so damn good.
Yeah, I mean, I even see bands coming out now where I'm like, how do they have these references already? Like, how do they know who these bands are already? It took me until I was like in my mid-20s to learn about, like, you know, Have Heart and like Bane and some of these like bands that really inspired me. But like they're like 15, 16 and already are listening to this stuff, and I don't even understand where they're getting it. Yes.
The YouTube is helping.
I wish I could have been an iPad kid. I'd be
the forums.
Forums? Is that a thing still?
No, of course not. I'm so old.
Has Reddit taken the place of forums? I don't even.
And like you know, playlists and stuff. That's you know.
Yeah.
Do they appreciate the music though as much as we did? Those CDs that we had to carry around. I don't know. Probably. I'm just being old.
When you would drive around in your car, you had that giant book of CDs.
Yeah. And then you lost it. Oh, I lost one once. So pissed.
I used to steal some from my friends. I used to steal my friends' CDs. Like,
I would borrow them and rip them. Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah. I would borrow. I did that when we started jamming at Flo's house. That's how I discovered a lot of bands, actually. We started jamming at Flo's house for a while, and I would just bring my laptop and just go through his discography, and that's how I discovered Opeth. And I discovered, what else did I discover through that? A bunch of stuff. Cynic. Nice. Yeah.
You just needed that friend who had like an older brother that was listening. Yeah. Well, unfortunately, I didn't have that. I was the older brother, so my brother's like way cooler than me. Because
I have Vince. My friend Vince is the one that showed me a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
I still hang out with him. He's awesome.
My friend was Ryan, and unfortunately, he lives in Savannah still. So, Ryan, if you're listening, thanks for letting me steal all your CDs. That's great. Tell me, I brought something up the other day. I just need to know the details behind it, because when I heard the story, I laughed, but like it was a third-hand story.
Okay.
It's from the 3 Mile Scream days.
Yep.
It's a story that involves Dave Boucher and Greg from now Desecrate.
Yes. We played a show, Dead to Fall.
Yes.
And, Dave would give us shout out to Dave. He's the best there, obviously, and he's been the best for years. He would book 3 Mile on some shows, and 3 Mile, we played Lanco a lot, and we sort of went over with the hardcore kids. Mm-hmm. Played with Blessed by a Broken Heart, which is not a hardcore band, I know, but we played a lot of shows for Dave, and he put us on this Dead to Fall show, and not knowing what that scene was, we just showed up and played a gig, right? And our merch was set up, and Greg was he was sort of intimidating, I would say, back then. And I was shy, and he just took our table and just threw it into the merch pit, our merch table, and just threw it into the pit. And we were like, but why? Why? We don't understand. What did we do? We sort of thought that he didn't like us, but I don't think that was what it was. I think he was just exuberant and in the moment. I don't know if he was, we sort of took it as if like he didn't like us and we weren't supposed to be at that gig.
I don't know. Greg is, I'm sure he's chilled out a lot now that he just, and his.
We actually spoke about her at the Dahlia show, so we're cool.
Okay, good.
I haven't seen him in years.
Squash that 20-year beef.
Yeah. But we were like, but why?
Did he offer an explanation, or was he just like?
Oh no, he never spoke. We never spoke after.
Oh man, that's incredible.
Yeah, but what was that show? That was at Sala Rosa, I want to say.
Oh, nice.
I think. I can't remember. Yeah, it was a venue that doesn't exist anymore. Yeah.
No, that's a venue still.
Oh, so it definitely wasn't there. It was near there though. It was on Saint Laurent.
Underworld? Oh, okay.
No, it was on Saint Laurent. Doesn't matter. Yeah.
Anyway.
Dave. Yeah. Dave's the best. Still
Dave's the best.
Yeah.
Every time I see Dave, I gotta give him a high five or a handshake, or he's a handshake guy, so you gotta shake his hand.
He's the best.
Yeah, I had heard that story from the guitarist in my band, and I don't even remember how it came up, but he was like, we were talking about some Dead to Fall show, and then they were like, oh yeah, that's when Greg threw 3 Mile Scream's merch table into the pit. I was like, that seems really mean.
We sort of took it as mean, but now it's funny. But
so Greg, if you're listening, when you come on the podcast, we'll have to get your side, and then we'll.
I'm sure he was just having fun,
I'm sure.
Maybe he was pissed that his band didn't open the show. I don't know.
That might actually be it too. But I mean, he ended up being on a band that was signed to Sumerian for a bit too. So I don't know why he'd be upset. Yeah, that's great. There's a lot of stories I hear about Montreal scene back in the days. A lot of those people are older now. So we need these younger kids to start bringing that aggression, bringing that throw somebody's merch table into the pit energy.
Hell yes. Yeah. Make those weird connections,
Yeah. Just go to a show and do weird shit. And then you'll meet other people that want to do weird shit. So you can't have all these grandpas playing in all the bands.
We are getting old.
Yeah. I look at even me, I'm like, it hurts after I play a show.
We did the music videos for Cryptopsy, and I was in deep pain. for a horrible hangover, like immediately. Like we shot a Friday night, a Saturday, and a Sunday. And Friday night, I was on my couch like, oh, this weekend's gonna suck, and it did. But it was worth it. It was good. I was fine by Tuesday though.
Do you do your stretches? You got your stretches out?
I did not. I should have. We haven't played in a while, so.
Yeah, it's been a minute. I think the last time y'all played was that Brutal, wasn't it? It was Brutal.
No, we did a Winnipeg Manitoba Metal Fest was the last Cryptopsy gig, which was super cool. That was super fun. That was very cool.
But now
which led to me doing Brutal Winnipeg because Corey Thomas is awesome. Yeah.
And now y'all are putting out a new album in the works. You have a signing announcement.
Yeah.
There's some touring happening.
We're in the process of organizing everything right now. I can't talk about too much because we can talk about the signing. Century. We were on Century Media for a long time. up until the Unspoken King, and then we fulfilled the contract by releasing The Best of Us Bleed, and then we went independent. We were independent for a long time, and it was a big argument in the band about wanting to be on a label again, and having that platform to showcase the band. So it really all started and stemmed with Charles from Abysmal Dawn, who works at Nuclear Blast, and wanting to complete the Book of Suffering in a package, in a proper package. And us doing that independently was something that was daunting to me, to package this appropriately and have it look amazing and then distribute it properly. It became complicated because some of the rights for the tomes are signed away to other companies across the globe. So Charles was like, why don't you just do an album? And we were like, oh, okay, well, let's just do an album. And that's what we did. So that took a long time. We actually signed in March 2020, which is crazy. We were in a cabin in the woods writing the new Cryptopsy record, and we signed the record deal then, 3 years ago. And then it took us a long time to finish the record, a long time, the pandemic and just the way Cryptopsy writes. Chris Donaldson really kicked us and dragged us through this whole process. It's really his baby, this record. And we all finished our parts like separately. It was a horrible experience. It was horrible. We wrote separately. We were trying to do Zoom stuff. Everyone just frustrating. And then I recorded my vocal, like Flo did his drums at one point early last year. And then I finished in June. And then Ollie was like living at Chris's for a moment, and he finished his there too. And then Chris like finished his solos like in December. It was like nonsense, because when you're a producer and you're working on your own band, it's like the last thing you want to do, sadly.
Right.
Because you're like, oh, I'm going to do this. It's like, it's my band. I'm going to produce my band. But then when you have like, you finished your work for the day, you don't want to keep doing your work, you know?
Right.
So it becomes difficult. So he made it happen. We're very stoked with everything. The vocal session was amazing. I went for a week and lived at his house. He has a small child too, about the same age as my kids. He lives next to a beach. So we'd wake up in the morning and track a song, go to the beach, come home, eat supper, and then track another song. It was super cool. And he's a pleasure to work with. But deciding to get back on a label and have like a platform to showcase Cryptopsy, it was something that we've been talking about for a long time in the band. Late night fights, a lot of fights about getting back on the label. So we took the chance, and we're excited to see what it brings us. Being independent was awesome in 2012 when Facebook didn't have all the the algorithm paid shit in place yet. We would just like, we put out the self-titled on Bandcamp and made a post, and it did very, very well. Nowadays, you have to pay to insensitize Facebook to push it to your fans. Right. And it was very difficult. Like a lot of people, Ollie's said that he tours with Cattle Decapitation, and people come out and they're like, what's Cryptopsy doing? You know, why hasn't Cryptopsy done anything? And he's like, we've released 2 EPs. And they're like, we had no idea you did that. So despite the fact that we're like a big band and we put stuff out and there's press releases, people are not getting the news because we were independent, and we had publicists. We completed the team of what a label would do when we were independent, but it wasn't enough in our experience, in my opinion. You know? So we're hoping that with Nuclear Blast behind us, one of the biggest labels in the world, everyone's going to get to see and hear and experience the new Cryptopsy and usher this new era of Cryptopsy into the future. We're very excited. The material's great. It's definitely Cryptopsy. It's an evolution always. We repeated some riffs a little bit more than usual, but never long enough because it's Cryptopsy. There's dark, moody periods without it being the overuse of what everyone else is doing with the black and metal. We like didn't do that.
Droney,
it's like not like the aborted, what Cattle Decapitation. We definitely have our own thing going on. So I'm excited. I'm excited to showcase it. We're busy doing music videos with Chris Kells. We just wrapped up last night at a grave digging scene, which is amazing. Working with Chris Kells is obviously just awesome. I've known him for over 20 years. We were like literally in his parents' backyard yesterday, which is crazy to be back in a friend's house after 20 years. It's going to be cool. I'm stoked. Stuff is going to start leaking, teetering, releasing out throughout the summer. Can't talk too much about anything there, but it's good. It's a nice under 40-minute experience. It's easily digestible. It's uncomfortable. It's Cryptopsy.
Nice. I'm sure we can expect the usual chaotic. What am I trying to say here? Like, it's just a lot of chaos usually, like bursting chaos, like a torrent. But
digestible also. Digestible, and I have like a cool concept that wraps the whole record together, which I'm very happy about. The cover art is amazing. We worked with this amazing Italian painter.
Nice.
It's so good. Just it's unbelievable. Very excited to unveil it to everyone and get it out there.
And you guys have any show announcements you can talk about, or?
We are playing Maryland Death Fest 2024. We are doing a Blasphemy Made Flesh set. So I have a lot of work to do before MDF. A lot of work to do because we're doing the whole album. So that will be something that I have to get under. So that is in May. And we're hoping to build a tour around that. I can't say that, but nothing is set in stone yet, aside from MDF.
Cool. Well, I'm excited. I know Nancy's excited. I know that all of Montreal is excited for the new Cryptopsy, for some new music to come out on Nuclear. What you said, Nuclear Blast, right? Yeah.
Nuclear Blast.
I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't spoiling that. So it's exciting. I love Nuclear Blast. They've been signing a lot of new bands as well, which is very cool to have, this roster of, legendary bands stemming from OG all the way to Cryptopsy to like new kids that play some weird form of metal that we don't even know about yet. So I'm excited. I'm stoked
to see where this like relationship brings us, how we can both uplift ourselves, and it's cool. It's cool. I'm excited. It's been 3 years in the making, so I'm happy to actually talk about it.
Yes. That's the thing that sucked about the pandemic, is everybody made an album and couldn't release it and couldn't talk about it. And now all those albums are coming out.
It's good. It's good for us. We get to enjoy them.
Yes. So, excited for you guys. Excited to see what happens.
Thank you very much.
Well, Matt, this has been a lot of fun. I'm super excited that we finally got you on the podcast.
I'm honored. Such
a special 100.
Episode. Look at you. Yes. Here's to the next 100. Cheers to you.
Thank you.
Thank you to Blair for sending me this. You just keep doing what you're doing. It's once now you got the pattern down. You just have to just follow it and take breaks, and it's just a podcast.
You gotta take the breaks. That's the thing. Is I haven't hit the point where I need the break yet, but I know that 2 years is a long time to go nonstop. So we'll see. Maybe I'll hear an announcement soon. Anyway.
Keep it up. Keep pushing. Keep making cool things.
You too. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you.
Before you go, let me get one last question. What's your favorite city for beans and breakdowns?
I definitely like espressos and stuff. So Italy has some very good. I've had some excellent espressos in Italy. If you wake up early and you go to the little piazzas or stuff there, get off the tour bus and you go and have an espresso nice in Italy there, like Rome or something there. Always amazing. Definitely.
What about is Rome got the breakdowns too?
I would think it does. Hopefully not the bus breakdowns though.
No. Not those kind of breakdowns. No,
I don't want those. No.
Well, Matt, again, thank you so much. Really appreciate everything that you're doing and you've done. And, we'll be looking out for that new Cryptopsy coming out soon.
Hell yes. Soon. Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers. Thanks for listening to this episode of Beans and Breakdowns. I want to say a huge thanks to Matt for hanging out on the podcast. It was really awesome to get to share the 100th episode with him. If you haven't already, please listen to Cryptopsy. They're really amazing. They have some new music coming out, like he mentioned, so keep an eye out for that. Also, check out the Vox and Hops Metal and Beer podcast. He's got 400 episodes talking with all kinds of metal musicians, beer people, vocalists. It's really incredible, so be sure to give that a listen as well. If you've enjoyed the podcast, please subscribe and leave a review. You can find out more information about the podcast by following us on Instagram at Beans and Breakdowns or on the web at beansandbreakdowns.com. Until next week, be sure to stay caffeinated and wake the fuck up!